I think we all understand that this is Mother's Day in this year of 2025, and you can tell that by several reasons. So all of you ladies in the audience have a rose, and then we can look across an auditorium and see several ladies who are missing, and I am relatively sure they're with their families in other places. So we want to congratulate each of you who is mother. And we want to express to you that we hope you feel honored today, and we hope at some point during the day that someone does something very, very special for you. So, happy Mother's Day. And I want you to kind of think with me for a moment about your mother. For some of you, maybe you have to think back several years because maybe your mother's been gone for a long time. Maybe your mother's been gone just for a little while. And try to think of a time when maybe your mother helped you with a special project and you would not have gotten it done without her help. Can anybody remember a time like that? A school project or something that she helped you with and you got it done because she helped? Or can you remember a time when maybe she sacrificed something, significant sacrifice, in order for you to have something that you wanted? See if you can remember a time like that. Or maybe you remember a time, this is more appropriate for me, I know it's more appropriate for Ricky Trent sitting back there, a time you really, really messed up. You really made a giant mistake. And yet your mother came to you with such kindness and such compassion and such forgiveness. Can you remember times like that? Well, I suspect you can. That's part of the reason that we honor mothers, not just the ones who are alive, but the ones who have already gone. And we all have this special place in our hearts. Well, if you go to the book of 1 John, it seems to me that John has been writing all these weeks that we've been studying in the book of 1 John, and what's that been, 14 weeks or something like that we've been studying in the book of 1 John, maybe 15, I don't know. But I think John's been wanting to say to us three things, maybe more than that, but as I look back over all those lessons, I think three things are really apparent. So look at these three things that Burke will put on the screen. He wants us to know and remember that because of Jesus, we are the children of God. Because of Jesus. No other way you can become a child of God except through Jesus. He wants us to know that because of Jesus, we are citizens of a new kingdom. We no longer belong to the world. We are citizens of a new kingdom only because of Jesus. And because of Jesus, our future is in heaven. Now, as you remember your mother and you think about times that she sacrificed or times that she did something special or some time that she was very compassionate when you messed up so badly and was kind of forgiving to you and helped you back, it's because of Jesus that we are the children of God, we are citizens of a new kingdom, and we have this future in heaven. And for that reason, we think we ought to be honoring Jesus. We think it's appropriate that we honor him, not just on one day, but all days and all of our lives because we are citizens of a new kingdom. We belong to him. And John is going to spend the rest of his time in this book, almost all of chapter 3, chapter 4, and chapter 5 saying the same thing over and over again. And he's going to say, if you want to honor Jesus, then there are two ways. One is don't sin. Try to stay away from sin. Now, I know as you read that and you hear that, that's not all that exciting to think about, is it? If I want to honor Jesus because he made me a child of God, he made me a citizen of the new kingdom, he gave me a future in heaven, all those are great big deals. Don't sin. The other one, just love other people. Love other people. But how does that make you feel this morning? How does that really make you feel? I see it in my life to be somewhat, I think, of a problem. And the problem occurs because I don't do so well with that thing called sin. You remember what Paul said when Paul was writing in Romans chapter 7 and verse 15? He said something like, I know what I should be doing, but I end up not doing it. And I know what I shouldn't be doing, and I end up doing that which I shouldn't do. And he concludes that remark by saying, what a wretched person I am. And here I am standing here this morning, and I'm looking at Jesus, and I'm saying, Jesus, you made me a child of God. And Jesus, you gave me a new kingdom, a new home. And Jesus, you are the one who gave me the future in heaven. You gave me all this, and you want me to live differently, and yet I sin. And with this loving other thing, I have a problem with that. So let me just make sure you know that I'm not making this up. I mean, the whole rest of the book of John is written about this. Look at 1 John chapter 4, beginning of verse 19, about the love thing. We love because he first loved us. Whoever claims to love God, yet hates a brother or a sister, is a liar. Whoever does not love their brother or sister, whom they have seen, cannot love God whom they have not seen. This book is filled with that kind of language. He has given us this command. Anyone who loves God must also love their brother and their sister. And yet, when it comes to that right there, I think that means love, if you read carefully what John says, is if I see someone who's kind of in trouble, they have a problem physically in this life, and I have the wherewithal to solve that problem, the compassion in my heart would make me reach out and do something for them. And I don't always do that. And I think love is this kind of thing where somebody really messes up, and they may hurt me, and they may hurt my family, and they may do something really horrible, and yet compassion would swell up in me that I would have mercy upon them, and that I might even go to the point that I would forgive them. And I haven't done so well with that. Now you tell me how you've done with that. Are you in the same boat? I mean, this world, this life for us, as being a part of the new kingdom, is honoring this person named Jesus. He made us what we are, children of God, part of a new kingdom, on our way to a place called heaven. And he says, I want you to live differently. I don't want you to sin. I don't want you to love other people. And here I am right now, and I end up doing things I shouldn't do. I have this problem. Now, my question is, do you have the same problem? Do you really have the same problem? Do you ever sin? And do you have a problem with this thing called loving other people? Do you have that problem? Because I have a major problem with that. In fact, there are some situations that are so difficult, I don't know how I should act when it comes to dealing with other people. And when it comes to dealing with other people, sometimes I grow so weary that it's very difficult for me to even find the compassion that would even let me do something to help, or even let me move over to the world of forgiveness. Because I just kind of had all I can take of it. Do you have that same problem? And yet, what are we supposed to do with all this? Because John seems at this point to be so direct. He seems just to say, you're a child of God. Quit the sinning. You're a child of God. You ought to love other people. And I sit here and look at all that and tell you that I feel like wow, maybe I just ought to quit trying. Maybe I'll just give up. Have you ever felt like that? I visit with people routinely, that are in that situation. They just say, look, I hear what you're saying. I know what the Bible kind of says, and I just can't do it. I can't live right. About the time I get myself going in the right direction, I end up not there again. Do you ever feel like that? And do you ever get discouraged with all of it? Burke and I spent a little time this morning talking, and we were talking about things that just happened through the years in religion, and how people have argued and fought over this and that, and it's really not in the Bible, and yet people have such rigid feelings about it. And I said, I can't tell you, Burke, how that makes me feel, and how I've seen other people have such difficulty with it. I met with a person this last week, a very successful person, and he said, it took me years to wind my way back in to a life of faith and walking with Jesus, because I had all these things that were coming up and all these issues. I just felt like it was not possible. Do you ever feel like that? And what John is writing in this could make you feel so very guilty and make you want to give up. And yet John's writing so that you might be encouraged. And I'm saying, how in the world? We want to encourage our mothers today. We want them all to feel wonderfully blessed in that they have blessed us. And I want to be making Jesus feel like he's honored today. And I want to do it the same thing tomorrow and the same thing the day after that, because of everything that he's done for me. I want to do all that, and yet I feel like so often I just can't do it, and I almost get to the point I say, what's the use? What's the use? Does anybody get there? So there are 2 verses or 3 verses in 1 John chapter 3. And by the way, what you need to know is that John in chapter 3 and chapter 4 and chapter 5 will have at least 3 different times when he talks about things that seem almost impossible to understand. And that's the reason why most people steer away from this book. That is, steer away from it because it seems impossible. I don't have the ability to explain it, but here's going to be one of them this morning. I want you to begin and read in verse 19. It's real simple in one way of looking at it. This is how we know we belong to the truth, how we belong to Jesus, and how we set our hearts at rest in his presence. Now watch this. If our hearts condemn us, now just stop there. What does that mean, if our hearts condemn us? Well, that's what I've been talking about. That's what I've been talking about. My heart or my conscience so often condemns me. So often my heart says, Ken, you know better than that. You know you should not have done that. Or you should have done that and you didn't do that. Or Ken, you know that you should not have talked like that about this person. Or you know that you should have reached out and helped in this situation, and you didn't do it. And my heart condemns me because I have this wonderful thing called a conscience that's trying to be educated by God that kind of guides me through life. And what do? If my heart condemns me, we know that God is greater than our hearts, and he knows everything. Now, just hold on to that for a minute. God knows you aren't perfect. And God knows that you are very human. And God knows that you and I are all ordinary people. Extraordinary gifted in some ways, but we are ordinary people. We're just people. And He knows that we cannot live this life perfectly. He knows we're going to mess up over and over and over again. If He had not known that, why would He have ever sent Jesus in the first place? He knows we're a mess. And you may be looking at other people right now and say, they're really a mess, but we're a mess too. Because we just don't do things the way we ought to do them sometimes. Both in the sin category and the love category, and they kind of blend together, don't they? We just don't do it. We're just simply human people. And if you think you can live perfectly, you need to get on one of Elon Musk's rocket ships and go to Mars with him and try to live there by yourself. Because you cannot on this earth live perfectly. It is impossible. That's why Jesus came, so that He could make you perfect and so that His blood would wipe away all this. And so if your heart condemns you, you got to understand something. God knows that. And God is greater than our hearts. And God can take care of this. And guess what? He is really repeating exactly what He said in the very first chapter. In the very first chapter, He said, you shouldn't sin. You shouldn't sin. But if you do sin, the blood of Jesus will keep on cleansing you from your sin. If you walk in the light as He is in the light. If you keep trying. If you keep picking yourself back up. If your heart condemns us. God is greater than our hearts. And if our hearts do not condemn us, you see, occasionally, you get it right. Did you know that? Occasionally, you get it right. Occasionally, you see something standing right over there in front of you, and you know you should not mess with it. And you have the strength to stop and walk the other direction. Occasionally, you get it right. And occasionally, someone has said something really ugly about you, and you turn to them and you embrace them as though it's all okay. Occasionally, you get it right. And when you get it right because you're living for Jesus, we have this confidence before God that we are His children, that we're citizens of a new kingdom, and that we're on our way to heaven. So occasionally you and I get it right, but so often we don't get it right. And I'm concerned this morning about when we don't get it right. You know, when I asked you a while ago to remember if there's ever a time that your mother, and maybe you remember your father too, when you really messed up, and you really messed up. You got in big trouble. And it was known. It was known. You're in big trouble. And your mom and dad recognized you were in trouble. They did not condone what you did, but they gave you welcome arms, and they gave you complete forgiveness, and they understood you'd have to work through all the difficulties, but you could find rest and peace with them. That's why I ask you, do you remember that? Because that's what John is trying to say God is like. God knows we all mess up. Either in the sin category or the love category, and the two blend together. Because when I don't love right, I'm sinning. Everybody understand that? I wish I were more patient. I wish I were more tolerant at times. I wish I did not get so aggravated at times. I wish, do you have some of those wishes? I wish, and I could go on and on and on about myself. But you can do the same thing. The interesting thing is, when God looks at you, knowing that you really, really want to please Him, deep down in your heart, you really would like to walk like He wants you to walk. And you're on this pathway to heaven and you mess up. God keeps you safe. Remember how we used to make that statement or song, safe in the arms of Jesus? He keeps you safe. He keeps calling you His own. He keeps nurturing you and building you and helping you walk that pathway toward heaven. Does that make sense to you this morning? It's a little simple lesson that He says. You don't have to be perfect. I'm the perfect one. I made you perfect through my blood of my Son Jesus. I did all this. I just want you to honor me. I want you to try. I want you to do your best. And sometimes your best, well, actually all the time, your best is far too short. But you keep trying and I'll cleanse you. And so people ask, well, wait a minute. What happens when I stand before God in judgment? When I stand before Jesus actually in judgment, Jesus will be the judge. There's only one thing. He's going to know everything we've ever done in our lives. He's going to know every word we've ever spoken, good or bad. But there's going to be one analysis. There's going to be one analysis. Whether or not you were washed in His blood. And whether or not in that washing of His blood, you honored the blood the best you could through all your days. I'm trying to encourage you. I don't know if I'm doing a very good job of it. But there are some days that I am so burdened with it all or discouraged with it all, it's hard for me to even want to pray. It's hard for me to even want to speak to God about it. Do you think He doesn't understand that? Do you think He doesn't see that? And maybe just utter a little word. I'm sorry, or I know you're there, or I need your help, but that's about as far as I can go today. Can't you see Him saying, that's far enough. I'll take it from here. I'll take it from here. John's going to have the audacity to say before he gets finished, if you'll live like that, you can ask whatever you want and God will hear you and God will respond to you. Isn't that amazing? So it's all about Jesus. It's all about what He's done for you. It's all about living by faith in Jesus. It's all about saying, I believe God sent Him. It's all about saying, I want to change my life and live better. It's all about becoming a child of His. I was sitting with a group of presidents this last Wednesday, and one of them spoke up and he said, I got 2 players on my campus who play rugby, and they're twins from California. And he said, I'm telling you, they grew up with well, I don't think they hardly knew their parents. They kind of left, and they went here and there, and they went together, doing everything together. And he said, now they're pretty rough guys. But he said, both of them got baptized this semester. Now, he was on the campus of Southern Nazarene, but he said both of them got baptized this semester. And they got up in chapel, and of all things, they spoke together in chapel, and they said, we have one recommendation for all you students. You ought to read your Bible. I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? He just wants us to do that. He wants us to come from whatever dark places in this world we've been and to come to Jesus and to get ourselves baptized into His kingdom and live the best we can, knowing we can't do it perfectly. But having this giant confidence that as sick at heart I am and how sorry I am, he knows it all. And he covers it over. And so you can walk inside the building again next Sunday and hold your head up and saying, I'm coming as a perfect person today through Jesus, not through myself. Does that make any sense to you? That's why John writes the book. And I'm telling these lessons with John, for me, become complicated. But I'm trying to make them as simple as I can. That's why he's writing this book. So as we honor Jesus this afternoon, tomorrow, the next day, with the way we live, we honor him this morning also by remembering him with this Lord's Supper. Because, again, there is no forgiveness of sins without the shed blood of Jesus. And this Lord's Supper reminds us that he came and shed his blood for us. So, I just wish I could tell the whole world today, you don't have to be perfect. You have to be in Christ. You don't have to be perfect. You have to be in Jesus. And he makes you perfect. That's why he's the Lord of Lords. That's why he's the King of Kings. That's why one day there will come a day when every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. I don't care who you are or what you've done. You will understand he is Jesus. You better hope that you did it this side of life, this side of the grave. You better hope you did it then. And you ought to plan on doing it then. Because Jesus is the name above all names.